Hey everybody, this is a quick video to show you the top 10 brushes if you're getting started with Krita 4.3, and it's especially designed to help those that are new to digital painting. So if you have opened up Krita, you may have noticed that there are tons of brushes here, and just deciding what the best one is may be difficult. Okay, too long, didn't watch. So the quick answer to the top 10 is the Airbrush Soft, the Airbrush Soft, the Basic 5 size, the Pencil 2, Pencil 3 Large 4B, Pencil 6 Quick Shade, Wet Paint, Wet Textured Soft, Blender Basic, and Blender Blur. Okay, so if you're new to digital painting, let me explain these different brushes and why they're the most helpful. First of all, if you're new to Krita, you might need to know that I do have an eraser that I'm showing over here, but you actually don't need an eraser most of the time. So for example, I'm going to select this brush, and if you look in the bottom left hand side, you'll see basic size. It gives you the name of the brush. There's any number of ways that you can see the name, but that's the most obvious one if you have a brush selected. So here I've got basic size 5, and I'm just going to paint on here. But if I want to erase that, I can just press the E key, and if you'll notice, this button highlights, and so you can see that the eraser is on, and I can erase. So I press E again, and now I can draw. So that's what you would do most of the time. The other thing is you can change the size of your brush on the fly. So right now, as I'm painting, I want to change the size. I can press Shift, and I can change that size of the brush. Now, of course, I can also drag up here, as you can see, to change the size. But pressing Shift is usually a very nice thing during the workflow. You can also change the opacity easily. You can change a lot of other things, but those are the most obvious ones that you change. Now, if you want to get back to the defaults of what the original setting was, right here's a little button. It kind of looks like a little recycle button, and you can click that, and now the brush will go back to its default size and opacity and the other properties. Okay, so the different brushes. Let's start with shading, or actually, so shading here. We can see that the Airbrush Soft is the first one up here, and its default size is pretty large. So it's really helpful for giving background type of shading, you can see. But you can also change the size of the brush, and you can do detail shading, actually. So you can make it even tiny for details. So it changes its opacity as you're doing. Actually, it's the flow. But you can see as I press harder, I can get different shading. So that's the go-to brush for shading. The next one, if we think about inking, if you're doing any kind of things that are like comics or just inking drawings, the best one here is the Basic 5 size. And so what that's going to do is change the size of the brush with pen pressure. Okay, and then for sketching, the best brush here is Pencil 2 for basic sketching. And you can see that I can press lightly and I can get the dark. So it's very similar to a normal brush, or pencil, sorry. If I want to add some texture, then really the next one here would be the Pencil 3 Large 4B, and that's very similar to drawing with colored pencils. And I can change the size, of course, and get a different effect. So this texture here is actually this Pencil 6 Quick Shade, and it's very similar to what you might have used as a color crayon. So it's about as close as you can get to crayons that you used as a kid. For other texture, down here, this is this wet paint, and it's really nice in the sense that you can lay down paint and then blend. So it combines both blending and painting, and it's got a soft type of appearance. For a similar type of behavior but with more texture, you can use this wet textured soft. So again, you lay down the paint and you can blend. So it's really a nice type of brush there. Then you have the basic blender here. So here we have Blender Basic, and you can see this is what it looks like here. And that's really helpful for creating, if you want to have a little bit of a harder edge, but blending, but not super hard like an ink brush. So you can see I can do both hard edge blending and soft edge blending. But if I really want to have a very soft edge, then I want to use this Blender Blur, and you can see how much it blends. And of course, if you change the size of the brush, it will affect, you know, how much blur there is when you do your blending. So blending is a tool. If you're new to digital art, you may not have used blenders before. You may not be used to those, but you can see even if I'm using the Airbrush Soft, it's sometimes hard to get the kind of shading that you might be used to from natural media. So you may want to add a blender in there to make that shading a little bit smoother. So the last brush I've added to round out the top 10 is the Eraser Soft. Now, as I mentioned earlier, you don't actually need an eraser itself, but that's sometimes helpful. Here I'll just draw some with my ink brush here, and then with the Eraser Soft you can see it just does exactly what you would expect it to do. But this brings me to another point, which is you may have your own choices of what you think your favorites are. You may not even want an eraser in there. So the question is, how can I customize it for myself? Well, Krita allows you to add tags to collect brushes together. So here I'll show you, here's a whole bunch of different collections of brushes. Some of these come with Krita. Some of them I created myself. So for example, let me go to Krita 4, which is the set of brushes that are pens and brushes, erasers, all that comes with Krita. And so I'm going to create a new collection of brushes. And so to do that, I can just click on any particular brush. Here we'll select a basic 6 detail, and I'm going to assign to a tag. And sorry, it's not easy to see there. Let's see if this one shows it a little bit better. Yeah, I think you can see this. And it allows you to add it to a collection, to a tag. Or if you have a new tag, here I'm going to put my own name, new set, and that then creates a new set of brushes. So there we go, the new set, and you can see the only thing that's in there is that brush there, or whatever you added to it. To remove it, I just make absolutely sure that I've got the set of brushes selected, and I want to remove that. Then I can do remove from this tag, and it will disappear. So in the top 10, let's go to the top 10. If I wanted to replace that with something else, I can just right click and remove from this tag. And then now I can go and select let's go to the Krita brushes, and I can find one that I may like. Let's say that I like this one here. And so I'm going to click it, and I'm going to assign to tag, and then I will select the top 10. Now if I go back to top 10, you see that brush shows up, it's selected, and I can use it now as my top brush. One other thing to note, though, is that sometimes when you're doing these tags, it seems like it gets a little messed up, so you might have to change to a different set and come back for it to make sure that it shows the brushes properly. So just a note about that. So I hope that's helpful. Those are the top 10 brushes if you're getting started with Krita 4.3. Hope that helped.